On a small plot along the Ottertail River, just outside Fergus Falls, Kendra Ferencak grows a wide variety of flowers and herbs to sell. Kendra plants 1/4 acre in a variety of annuals and perennials that bloom from May through October. She raises a mix of heirloom and old-time favorites that are found in cottage gardens. And throughout the growing season, she sells fresh-cut flowers, ranging from fragrant daffodils and tulips in the spring to dried grains, grasses, and flowers in the fall.
Most of what I have growing here are annuals. So I have, starting with kind of that first bed, the trellis bed is sweet peas. And then of course we have some zinnias here. And being a wet year, it's kind of been a little rough on the zinnias. And then we have some snapdragons. And it's also been kind of, they like cooler weather, so this year's been kind of rough on them too. They're starting to kind of perk back up after that, you know, the long sort of heat spell we've had. And then what I'm harvesting here is called Gomphrena. And this is a nice fresh flower, but it's also very good dried flower. So I'll use this, if I don't use all this fresh, then I'll hang it up and use it for some dried arrangements later on. Behind me is called Amaranth, and I have 3 different varieties of it. So it's actually a grain, it's edible, but there's a lot of ornamental varieties. So the tall upright one is called Opopio, and just kind of, I've already done 1 cutting on it, so what you see now are the side shoots. If you were here about a month ago, you would have seen it, I mean, it would have been, you know, this tall and really, really vivid, kind of the same vivid color it is now, but much bigger. And so that first round I've already harvested and I'm drying. There's also an orange variety, that one's called Hot Biscuits. And then there's another one that I grow too that kind of has this trailing sort of habit to it. It's called Love Lies Bleeding.
And then is that Cosmos I see behind you?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yep.
you have a kind of a purple flower in the background.
Yes, this one, that one there is called Verbena Bonariensis. And actually I just last week, Governor Dayton was in town for, you know, to talk about jobs in Fergus. And that flower caught his eye in particular. I had it in my bucket, my stand, my buckets, and he bought a bouquet from me and he said, I want those in it. And so those Verbena. They're really also bright and kind of eye-catching as well. But they're a fairly small flower. And what I find surprising is that a lot of people really like some of the tiniest, almost what you would think would be insignificant flowers, but if they're bright enough, like that Verbena. And then I also have one called Irish Poet Tassel Flower, which is a gorgeous orange. And surprisingly, those little tiny flowers that you don't think of, you know, don't really think of much, are the ones that are people really want to know about.
In the spring, when blooms are scarce, she offers a variety of potted annual flowers, herbs, and vegetables for plant lovers to put in their own gardens. The plants are grown in the timber frame greenhouse built by her husband.
This magnificent greenhouse was built by my husband with recycled barn wood. So all these beams were from an old timber frame barn that was probably built 100 years ago. It's been a pleasant workspace. I've loved it, and I'm experimenting with different ways to use it, and possibly growing actually in here earlier in the season, but it's going to take a little experimentation, a little bit of time before I know exactly how to utilize the structure to its maximum capacity.
The greenhouse enables Kendra to extend the growing season for some of her popular flowers, such as lilies.
Take them out and store them, and
Really?
Yep. Well, that's what my intention is. And this is the first year I've tried it, so
Is that because you can push them to bloom earlier that way?
Yep, that way I can space out the plantings. And so, right this year I planted them all at one time because I kind of got them all at one time. And so I planted them all and had blooms all at the same time, and way too many blooms than I could actually sell at one time. So next year my intention would be to plant maybe like 50, and then the next week plant 50 more, and the next week 50 more, and so I'll have this kind of continuous cycle of lilies throughout the season. That was. Sure.
Kendra experiments with different ways to market her flowers. She has several customers for whom she delivers bouquets of fresh flowers on a regular basis.
People have been very supportive and really kind of they really like the subscription idea. They really like flowers brought to their house once a week. It's just kind of a cool thing. So a lot of people will sign up their mothers, elderly parents or something that used to love gardening but they can't anymore. So they really like the having fresh flowers brought to their home.
During the winter months, Kendra makes handcrafted soaps using many dried flowers and herbs grown on the farm. She also makes wreaths and dried floral arrangements to sell.
More red. But I always thought this would be kind of cool, as you know how they're doing all these feather hair pieces, for women. They're kind of working feathers in women's hair, and so they're taking away from all the fly fishermen. I was like, oh, well, maybe it would be cool to use something like this in somebody's hair, and then you wouldn't have to worry about taking away all the precious feathers from the fishermen. But I haven't sold anybody on that idea yet either.
You don't want to put grass in your hair.
Yeah, not quite. Bucket of flowers.
For weddings, anniversaries, or everyday bouquets for the kitchen table, beautiful locally grown, fresh-cut flowers from Forget-Me-Not Flower Farm just might be what you're looking for.